Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Polymer 80s. I haven't done a video on these guys for a while. This is one of my early ones. I had actually dyed that red color that you see there. This is one of my later ones that I did. Beautiful end plate there. This is a really nice one. And this one here is cool because this one matches my jacket. I have a winter jacket that has that color. I've done a whole bunch of videos on this one. And it is also a really cool one. Blue bottom with the white camel. So the Polymer 80 case is still active in the courts. There was a hearing, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I did a video on that. A really interesting argument was made because the ATF is asserting that you can take that these frames, these 80% frames, which they were selling basically as non-firearms that you had to complete, right? They're asserting that it was a firearm because it was readily convertible, right? All you had to do was, according to them, all you had to do was drill 3 holes, clip a bunch of tabs, Dremel it down, spend some time debugging it, and you had yourself a firearm, okay? So that's the reason why they were saying that it's a firearm, because it was readily convertible. However, the counter argument, which is really strong and powerful, is that, hey, you can take any AR-15, okay, and just drill 1 hole into it, right, and you can turn it into a machine gun, okay? So by the ATF's definition, right, if you have, let's say, a receiver, it doesn't need to have any other parts attached to it. You don't have to have a trigger group in it. You don't have to have nothing. If you just have a stripped receiver, a stripped lower receiver, and it's got that extra hole, or even the dimple where the hole would be drilled on the lower receiver, and the ATF finds you in possession of that, they're going to say that you are in possession of a machine gun, and they're going to charge you with a felony, okay, and probably get you convicted, like they did with Matt Hoover and Justin Irving, basically for selling a piece of metal with a drawing of with a piece of metal with a drawing on it, where if you cut out along those lines, you might have something that you might be able to put into an AR and might make it go full auto. And when the ATF tried to do it, they actually had a really hard time doing it, but they still managed to get the conviction, which is, and it's really a travesty and an injustice that those 2 guys, Matt Hoover and Justin Irving, are still in prison. I mean, this thing should have been like you know, some higher court should have stepped in on this, which is one of the reasons why I have very little confidence in the justice system. But that aside, let's go back to talking about these P80s. It's still active in the courts. Unfortunately, a P80 has filed for bankruptcy because it's been like 2 years, right, since this thing's been ongoing, almost 3 years. And this is really part of the lawfare that the Democrats have been waging. I don't think they ever. I mean, they knew that they may not be successful in the courts, but they intentionally thought that, hey, if they keep this in the courts long enough, they would drive them out of business. Okay, so that is something that needs to be addressed. That whole strategy of trying to, where the government is trying to drive people and businesses that they don't like out of business. Okay, there has to be a protection in place for that. So what I have here is I have a Facebook group set up for people that are still building these. I believe that they are still selling 76% frames. It may not be Polymer 80, it might be a different company. So I have a Facebook group set up called Building Polymer 80s and AR-15s because ... freedom. Okay, so look up that group, and you can go in there and you can upload videos, and it's not just me. It's like there's 15,000 people in there that can help you with your builds, whether they be pistol builds or AR builds. It's a good group where information goes both ways. So this is a Facebook group. When you do the search, you want to click on, put in the name I just told you, building Palmer 80s and AR-15s because freedom, and you click on the tab that says groups. You're looking for a group, okay? The other thing I got going on is I have a bunch of videos that I created back in 2022 when I was cranking these things out. Now, originally they were on YouTube, but YouTube was basically deleting them, giving me strikes, giving me suspensions, so I couldn't upload. They deleted one of my channels. So what I did is I took the videos off of YouTube and I uploaded them to a different platform or a couple of different platforms. They're on Rumble, they're on YouTube, on Odyssey. On Odyssey, I think the list is a little bit easier to find. Now, the search engines are terrible in these other platforms, but because I have a playlist for you, which I'm going to link below in the comments and in the description, it's easy to find the videos. Okay, so just go to the comments and the descriptions below, and you'll see the playlist, which will take you to a different platform off of YouTube, right? And you'll be able to see the list of videos, and you can scroll through it, and you can save it, and you can reference it back later on or pass it on to somebody else who might be interested in this. And also, if you go to the Facebook group, I also have that list, pinned, right? So people coming into that group can find it. Okay, so if you're going to the Facebook group, look for that pinned post that I have that has that list. Okay, now one of the things I've done is because of the lawfare that the Democrats have been waging, one of the things that I did back in, I think it was way before 2020, but one of the things I have made a lot of use of is my prepaid legal service, right? Because there's lots of stuff I was hearing on the internet, in the news about what's legal, what's not legal. People, they were saying that yes, I can still have them, you just can't sell them or transfer them, and you can't trust any information unless it comes from a lawyer that you have paid, okay? And the paying part is important because that makes you their client, and you get you get special legal protections because of that. So I got this prepaid legal service called U.S. Law Shield. Okay, I use them because they're cheap. They're only $11 per month. Okay, and then with this coupon code here, Pocono Shooting, right? You put that when you go to the website, uslawshield.com. You enter that coupon code, Pocono Shooting, and depending on your state, you get 1 month off, 2 months off, or you get something like $20 off. Okay, so the way I use this legal service, right? Because obviously, if you get into a self-defense type of situation, you've got an immediate lawyer that's already prepaid that will act at the very least as an intermediary between you and the police, right? Because you don't want to talk to the police. But that's like a big, that's a big if it ever happens, and it's a very small possibility that it would happen because I live in a fairly low crime area. But the way I have used these guys numerous times is I will send them an email, and I will ask them legal questions, right? So, for example, I was asking them legal questions about, hey, here in PA, is it legal for me to carry a gun that I built, right? And this is a state-by-state thing, right? So, yep, they said, yep, you can carry your gun that you built, perfectly legal in your state. I knew that already, but now I had it in writing from a lawyer, okay? Now, let's say I travel to a different state, right? Like, for example, I know that that Pennsylvania and Ohio have reciprocity, but is it illegal for me to bring this gun to Ohio? Again, if I was going to Ohio, what I would do is I would send them email. Like I don't go to Ohio, but I'm just throwing that out there as an example. If I was going to Florida or some other state that has reciprocity with Pennsylvania, I can ask them questions. Same deal with the pistol braces, right? I was able to ask them a question. Hey, is it still legal? Am I covered by the injunction? They gave me the answer in writing, and now I had that as a reference, right? I can use that in the future if I ever need to. Hey, I did due diligence. I asked the lawyer. They gave me the answer, and that's why why I did the thing that I do. I had I had reasonable reliance, right? There's a word that they use, but I had a good reason to believe that what I was doing was legal because I got the information from a lawyer that I'm paying, right? Even though it's $11, only $11 per month, I'm still paying them. So there's that client privilege thing that I got there going on with these guys. So that's an important thing, I think, and not even less for the hey, if I ever get into a self-defense situation, more for I got questions. is this legal that I have? Is that legal that I have? Can I take this to that state or to that state? If you're traveling, you can call them up or email them, and they'll give you an itinerary. Say, hey, I want to go from here to Florida. Can I carry my gun through these states? And they'll say, well, you can carry through these states. When you get to these states here, you got to unload it. When you get to that state, make sure it's in the trunk, ammunition separate, and they might say, hey, that state there, completely avoid it. So I will get an itinerary from them like that. Yeah. So it's only $11 per month. All right, it's U.S. Law Shield. There's your website. There's a promo code, Pocono Shooting. Okay, let's do a little shooting. And so one of the things that I do, or I was doing when I was building these guns, right? In order to test them, right? What I would do is, like I'm normally a right-handed shooter. What I would do is put them in my left hand, okay, and shoot them one-handed, okay? Because if there's any error in the build, basically if you're shooting it one-handed, it's a lot less forgiving, okay? So that's how I would test these, and I would do some fun stuff like, some moving and shooting, like stuff. So that's how I test out these guns. I put them in my left hand, and I do moving and shooting because that's generally less forgiving. Okay, if you're just always doing perfect presentation, right, where you have a firm grip on the gun and you don't know what your gun's going to do, if you're in an awkward situation, if you're grappling. So yeah, I put it in my left hand, do some moving and shooting. I want to shoot like when my feet are like when I'm like between steps, and just make sure that the gun works. Okay, so it's very practical because a lot of times you might find yourself in a situation where you're trying to hold somebody back. So that's how I test out my guns. The other thing is that I like an optic. I really like this ACSS optic, right, where it's got that big outer circle. So when you come all the way back like this, you can see the circle and the chevron. But when you go further out, what happens is the outer circle basically falls out of your field of view. But if you're offline a little bit, it kind of guides you to the center. So this is the perfect pistol design. Now it doesn't have to be exactly this. I wish other manufacturers would develop this concept, okay, with having some type of an outer circle to guide you to the center. But right now, as far as I know, Holosun is the only one that makes it. So that's why I only buy Holosuns. Okay, I think this is, too many people focus on that perfect presentation. But what happens if you don't do perfect presentation for a number of reasons? You're not going to be able to find that. A lot of times people say, well, you go to your iron sights. Here's the thing, if you're used to going to your dot, you're going to look for that dot. It takes a while for your brain to click from going from your dot to going to your iron sights. It's just like if you only train with iron sights, it takes some time before your brain starts going from iron sights to your dot. Okay, the issue that I find with iron sights, number one, as a gun instructor, I train lots of new people, and what I see is that for beginners, yeah, optics are way better. But even with experienced shooters, what I have seen is that if even people that are used to using their iron sights, they usually only train under range conditions. Okay, when I put them in an unfamiliar setting, when I put them in the tactical range, when I tell them to shoot and they're not expecting to shoot, when they're not expecting me to tell them to shoot at that particular second, what I find is they come out of their holster, and many times they're point shooting the gun because they don't go from looking at the target to looking at their front sight. Because what normally has to happen is you got to look at the target. You got to see where the target is. You got to know what you got to shoot at. And yeah, if it's like a flat range, two-dimensional, and you know what you're going to be shooting at in advance, I mean, it's easier. But if you don't know what you're going to be shooting at, your brain is going to spend more of its energy focusing on the thing that you're supposed to shoot on, which means that it's harder to make that transition back to your front sight, right? Because if you're shooting iron sights, you have to focus on your front sight, which means the target's supposed to be blurry and your rear sight's supposed to be blurry. And that's not a natural way for people to function, okay? People naturally focus on the thing that they're shooting at. They don't naturally bring their focus back to their front sight. So even with experienced people, I have found that if I raise the stress level enough, they're going to stop using that front sight, and they're going to basically point shoot the gun, right? They're going to be focusing on the target, and just, you know, bullets will be bouncing all over the target, and they're not realizing, you know, until I mean, I know why they're not doing it, because I've been doing this long enough. You know, they're not even realizing why they're missing. They'll be like, oh, I'm just off today. No, it's like, no, you're not focusing on your front sight. You're focusing on the target, okay? So red dots, I like that, because you just look at the red dots are good for that, because with red dots or some type of optic, you're looking at the target, and your dot is on the target. Okay, so that's why I really like red dots, because it works with the way people normally function, of looking at the thing that needs attention, right? The thing that's scaring them, the thing that they got to defend themselves against. That's the thing they got to look at. And it's a lot more convenient if the dot or the aiming point is on it, okay? So my thoughts on that, drop some comments. Talk to y'all soon.